Greetings to viewers around the world, and look at this, it's a picture perfect fall day. That's right, Northern Hemisphere winter start on the 22nd December. I'm here on Lake Michigan in Chicago. Look at this, and guess what? Global warming is real. Lake Michigan isn't frozen over. Don't get fooled by the weather. It's still quite balmy. I'm not even wearing gloves. In fact, we've only been averaging like 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit for the past month. That's not good enough for the great city of Chicago. And you know, people might say, oh no, it's snowing. There's no such thing as climate change. No, there is such thing, because it should be colder. We should be able to be skating on the pond there. We should be on Lake Michigan skating away. And isn't this a magnificent sight? And look at this. This is pure Chicago. People running. It's just amazing. This is what life's about. And people are saying, why are you getting excited? You live in Chicago. Well, I'll tell you something. I grew up in a temperate climate where people whined when it was 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. People were covering up, wearing scarves. Can you believe it? And it wasn't even snowing. So this is amazing scenes. But I'll tell you something. Sapporo, Japan is still the snowiest city in the world. And there was actually a recent talk about the Winter Olympics, because this coincides with the global warming talk. They're struggling to find cities that have enough snowfall to host the Olympics and also have mountains in the background. Unfortunately, Chicago is a very flat city. They don't have the mountains, or else Chicago would actually be considered as a Winter Olympic host. But at the moment, Sapporo, Japan is basically the only one in the running, because it has the scenery. It has basically the elements that can handle Winter Olympics, because global warming is ruining it for everybody. I mean, look at Chicago only averages like 3 feet of snow these days. That's not good enough either. And so I'm putting up the weather gods today. We need more of this. And today is the 16th of December, 2022. So we are dreaming of a white Christmas. It's come 9 days early. Amazing stuff here. And I said, we're not going to get too political today on the global editorial rant. I thought I'd give you guys some, relaxation to relax by the most magnificent Great Lake of them all, Lake Michigan. And if you're not familiar with this part of the world, we're in Rogers Park, Chicago. It is one of the greatest areas. Now, I'll tell you something about it. It's eclectic. It's inclusive. It's eccentric. It's authentic. And I'll tell you what, there's no joke. It's an amazing cross-section of the people of the Midwest, of Chicago itself. It gets a bad rap. And yes, the gangland crime. LA and New York combined murders Chicago has. But, that's the sad thing about US cities. We leave our door unlocked here at Rogers Park. We get on the L line, the 6th best transit system in the world that I've mentioned in my podcast. Thanks to all those who found my podcast. And those not listening, shame on you. But those who have been supporting Global Editorial since 2015, you are the true champions of opinion. But, Chicago's a very safe city. But like all US cities, it's divided. You've got the south, you've got the north, you've got the west side. So the north is very safe. People don't experience the south over here. But we get our daughter on the train line, we go to the south, we try to include her in the real Chicago. We've got to be better as Chicagoans as well. It's a very progressive city. But with that comes a responsibility to do better. And we need to do better in the south of Chicago. And look at this in the north here. It's heaven. This is heaven on earth. And I'll tell you the divide. It's hard for the south to access the lake because of the way the city's been designed. It's an amazing city. It's an architectural delight. But the south has been misunderstood and hasn't received the same design structures, and you can't access the lake as easy as I can today. Look at this, the seagulls, the cockroaches of the sky are here. I brought them from Australia. Can you believe that? But hopefully one day we can all skate together on Lake Michigan, because we have to do better as a society. Climate change is real. Now, the only political rant I'm going to do, and I know this is going to be controversial, is to do with a beautiful game. That's right, soccer as they call it in the US. And look, let me just give you a little tidbit on how soccer is struggling in the United States. A basic football game, an NFL game, received 42 million viewers on Thanksgiving. That's just counting terrestrial viewers, as in television. Shout out to those who still have an idiot box. And the US team against the Netherlands averaged about 15 million. So there you go. That's in a nutshell. I mean, if you call the online and the streaming, the NFL probably have even more. So we're talking, it's dying here. But I'm talking about Argentina versus France. Two racist countries going at it for the World Championship. As I said, every country has racist skeletons. But currently, France has around 1 million undocumented in its country, and they're being put down. They're being blamed for crime. They're being blamed for all the ills of society. Does that remind you of a country that I'm currently standing on the terrain of? Well, the Le Pen type people, just because Macron is a centrist and so-called progressive, doesn't mean anything. They're attacking immigrants in France right now, to the point where there's all this rubbish going on online, even about the skin tone of their players in their national team. That's right, they'll lose. If they lose, you'll see even Mbappe will get hate. France is a great immigrant country, but they have a big racist element, much like the United States, blaming immigrants for their ills. They need to do better. with their undocumented and their immigrant population. And Argentina, don't get me started about Argentina. This is the country that has consistently had their leaders say the following when they travel abroad. In fact, Carlos Menem, who had Lebanese heritage himself, and Argentina has a lot of people with ethnic backgrounds. He was in the US back in the day, he's now passed away. I don't know if you should shed a tear for him. As president of Argentina, he mentioned to the United States, we don't have a black problem because we have no blacks. Now, this has nothing to do with sport, I know, but when you're watching the game on the weekend, just remember, two racist countries at it. We need to do better. FIFA's got its problems. We need to use the World Cup as a way to get people together. We support football players on the pitch. We come together. But guess what? They'll start using football as a form of racism, because in Italy, they throw banana skins still on the pitch. Right? We've got to weed it out. And if it's a beautiful game, if it brings the world together, we have to say to the countries that dominate, and by the way, only 8 countries dominate the World Cup. It's so much for being in a world game, all these countries participating, it's always the usual suspects in the final. FIFA should say as a guideline that in order to compete in the World Cup, you've got to do better race relations in your country, because it is a beautiful game and it should support beautiful people of all backgrounds. And he's standing behind me is beautiful scenery. So that's an interesting segue. As I said, it's a rant. If people are not familiar with Global Editorial, we go on and on and on. We go on rants. We go off tangent. There's no script, by the way. Unlike John Oliver, shout out to John Oliver last week tonight. He takes some of my material and steals it. He's got like 14 writers. And I don't have any team of writers. This is all off the cuff. All off the cuff on a beautiful, balmy, snowy day in Chicago. I hope to see you soon here. I'll give you a guided tour. This is what life's about. And as I said, let's weed out racism through the beautiful game. Let's do better for climate change, because we need to have Lake Michigan frozen over during the winter months, because without a frozen Lake Michigan, the world will die a slow death. For now, wishing you all the best. Keep safe, people. Leave your doors unlocked. Come together and let's all celebrate the greatest city in the world, the greatest lake in the world, Chicago on the shores of Lake Michigan.